Thank you so much, Skip, for finding time and accepting my invitation to be on this show, The X Monks Tribe. Such a pleasure having you here.
Gaurav, I'm honored and I'm so excited for this conversation. It's a blessing to know you, and I just can't wait to see what we'll unpack and discover today in our conversation.
I'm sure we are going to create something very meaningful for all our listeners. You know, Skip, you meet people in your life and then you thank the universe.
Yes.
Meeting with you was one such episode in my life. I talk to myself and I tell them that there are times when you meet people and you realize as if the time has stopped because you're so much in this moment. And every conversation with you has been like that, where I could experience the time has stopped. There's something magical happening within, and I can just be in this state where I can experience a deep level of connection with you. So thank you for being who you are.
Thank you for those kind words. I humbly accept those. Feel the same about you, and it is a blessing. There's no other way to describe it. But I will say that in our first or second meeting, you asked me one of the most powerful questions that anyone's ever asked me in my lifetime, and I ask questions for a living. So I appreciate a great question, and that question still ranks as probably the most important question that anyone has ever asked me. And as you know, well too well, and our listeners can now know that I asked for 2 weeks to get back to you while I thought about my answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And where are you on that question?
Yes. So we should, to bring our listeners in on this little secret that we're talking about, because it shouldn't be a secret. The question was, Gaurav, you said to me, Skip, what would you do or accomplish in your lifetime that would represent your wildest dreams and your greatest accomplishment? The question helped me to realize and appreciate that. I came back to you with an answer 2 weeks later, and it was a two-part answer. I said, first of all, your question helped me to discover that I'm already living my wildest dreams. I'm so blessed, and the things that I have I have it all. So there was a deeper appreciation thanks to your question. The second thing was some of my wildest dreams, which I shared with you, things that involve planning and taking trips with my father, increasing my reach of my message with my podcast and the platform there, and so on. But it was a fabulous question, and thank you for that.
Thank you. I remember where you spoke about your son, you spoke about your wife, and you spoke about your father. And yes. I was so touched because when you said that you are living your wildest dream, because it's very rare I come across people who can say that with so much of conviction that they are living their wildest dream. I'm just wondering, you have spoken about podcasting is something that you really love because that's your way of spreading the message that you have. Teaching is something that you really love.
Yes.
Just curious, what was that moment when you realized that that's something that you would like to do for the rest of your life?
Gaurav, it's a story. Do you mind if I share that story with you? I remember like it was yesterday.
Would love to.
I was early in my entrepreneurial journey. I had just launched a marketing and advertising consulting firm. New business owner, small business owner. We had probably 5 or 6 employees at the time, and we were striving and straining and hustling to make success, to break even, to meet our customers, to deliver great quality services to our customers. In 2003, this was 2001, so I'm early in the third year of my business. I get a call from a friend who says, Skip, would you like to go to the Tom Peters Summit on his farm in Vermont? And it's about a month from now. And my friend's name is Rob. Rob had overlapped with Tom in the consulting world. Tom Peters is one of the most famous business authors in America, if not the world. and he and Rob overlapped. Tom was with McKinsey and Company, and Rob was with Ernst & Young Consulting. Rob was right to be invited to the event. Rob belonged there. And I'm pretty sure Rob had another successful, sharp, accomplished business consultant that was probably his first invitation. And whoever that was, I'm sorry. They weren't able to go, but I was. And so a month later, we made the trip to Vermont, and I got to enjoy a 3-day weekend with Tom Peters. It was right before the launch of his new book called Reimagine. And like I said, it was held in his hometown. Parts of the event were on his farm. Tom is a business hero of mine, and I got to spend up close and personal time with him over a 3-day weekend. It was really special event. The first night, we had the whole group gathered together in this old, historic, small, quaint Vermont town in New England, and we gathered in the public library. Had a large a meeting room, a town hall meeting room on the second floor, and that's where we had our introductory dinner. We mixed and mingled, and Tom called the group together, and he tapped on his wine glass, and he gathered us all into a circle, and he gave us a welcoming remark. And he said, hey guys, I'm going to go around the room here in a moment. And as an icebreaker question, I want us to get to know each other really well. I want us to really get to know each other quickly, develop a level of trust and rapport. And I'm going to ask you a question. So there we are in April 2003, gathered in a circle in Vermont, in Tom Peters' hometown. And he looks around the group of 30 or so business leaders, and he says, what did God put you on this earth to do? That was the icebreaker question. And as my throat went dry, my heart started pounding, and I started scrambling in my brain for how in the world I'm going to answer this question that really pierces my soul. And it's such an important, big question. Fortunately, Tom turned and he pointed to start at the directly opposite of me around the circle. So fortunately, I was not the first person, which meant that I had a few minutes to think about my answer. But as I sat there and stopped consciously thinking to try to recall the answer, which really didn't exist in my brain, the answer was in my soul. And I just had to listen and be quiet for a moment. And I really think, Gaurav, that at that moment, the first time that God revealed to me that my true purpose is to be a teacher. And God put me on this earth to teach. And so as I go about publishing my podcast, which is about curating and distilling and distributing wisdom, I'm in fact teaching. I'm sharing wisdom with other folks. And so that's my purpose. My purpose is to be a teacher. And that moment in 2003 at Tom Peters' business event called the Reimagine Summit was when I first was able to articulate that. And it was a great event, by the way. Great event. It was fun. I learned a ton. We got great merchandise. I came back with a fleece pullover, a hat, all kinds of a briefcase. He had a rock disc jockey that would play bumper music in between sessions. We'd get 5 minutes of music from a professional DJ and all kinds of cool stuff. Everyone that was there, most of the folks there were business authors. They brought their book. I came away with more books than I could carry home on the airplane, free from those authors, and have made tremendous relationship connections, many of which last to this day.
In fact, interestingly, in all my conversation, you have accentuated, you have given importance to relationships and connections. There's so many relationships that we have in our lives. You are a father, you are a brother, you are a son, you are a friend, you are a manager, you are a coach, you are a citizen. There's so many relationships that we play. Just curious, how do you manage different roles in your life, and what's your anchor?
Fabulous question, Gaurav. I think the way I manage is to go back to my purpose. So each of those that you mentioned, I enjoy athletics. I've been a basketball coach. I enjoy working out at my gym. I practiced a style of fitness called CrossFit, and I became certified to be a level 1 certified CrossFit instructor. And I taught adult athletes, how to get in shape in a gym for 5 years. At my church, which is a big part of my life, I am a small group leader, and I'm also function in an church elder role where I'm an advisor and coach to the pastor and other leaders in the church. In my business life, where I've gotten the most validation and where I've made the biggest contribution, my highest and best use has been mentoring other professionals, regardless of where I'm working or what role I'm in, investing in other people, taking the time to listen, taking the time to appreciate their ideas and explore their ideas, taking the time to offer suggestions and gentle, helpful, constructive criticism when that's appropriate, or to hold people accountable. Someone says, "Hey, I want to stop doing this or do more of that. I want to make sure I meet this deadline. Hey, can I help with that? I'll put a reminder and I'll check back in with you. I'll be your accountability partner." So in parenting, obviously, I'm a coach, a mentor, an encourager to my children. So yeah, I think in every aspect, it goes back to my purpose. I think once you know your purpose, everything becomes simplified.
Mm. The statement itself is so easy to carry that once you understand your purpose, life becomes easy. The difficult part
Yes.
is how to find the purpose. Just
Yeah.
before this
I
conversation, I was leading another conversation and we were talking about this only. And it took me a lot of time to come to one basic statement that I continue to revisit. I mean, do you have any formula? Do you have any process? Do you have any structure that could help people to come up with their purpose?
Gaurav, I think the answer is different for everyone. Unfortunately, I don't have a formula, and like you, I don't think I had that answer until I was around the age of 40. Wisdom can't be rushed.
Hmm.
It can't be accelerated. There's no fast forward button on finding one's purpose. However, I think it involves certain things which are looking inside oneself,
Hmm.
making space and time for quiet reflection, studying, putting yourself in the company of other wise people so you can see what those people do and what they value as their purpose and how they discovered it. So those are just a few thoughts, but I don't think it's a one size fits all answer or
Hmm.
process.
Hmm. It's like keep experimenting, keep reading, keep practicing, and slowly and
And
steadily we'll start to see the
yes,
glimpse of that.
yes, and listen, look inside and listen. Be prayerful about it. Um, make time for that. Be very disciplined. It's not about how many books can I read in the next month. That's not going to do it.
Hmm.
That's sort
Hmm.
of pushing as much knowledge and information through our brain as we possibly can in a short period of time is not going to reveal our purpose. It's not going to make us more wise. It may make us more confused and feel more
Hmm.
stressed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just curious, Skip. I remember our last conversation, and you mentioned of all the relationships that you've experienced in your life, you believe the most important relationship is friendship.
I
Why?
do.
Why would you say that? Why is friendship so important when you have so many other relationships in your life?
Yeah, I think it's vital. It has been for me. And there have been, I'm going to give you a couple different chapters of this answer. No, I'll
Mhm.
promise that I'll make them all fit together. It'll make sense. When I was young, I had friends that were just social friends. And we did things like watch sporting events and we played golf, or we were in a softball league, and we had conversations that passed the time. We talked about pop culture and sports, and we talked about temporary things. We talked about politics and the events of the day, and who's dating who and what happened in Hollywood, right? None of that matters. None of that's lasting. None of that helped me grow or discover my purpose. Through the middle part of my life, my 30s into my 40s, I started raising a family, having kids, and men and women, I'll speak about men particularly, we become very focused on our families and being providers, being dads. and we are less concerned about our social connections. We're very, very, very tightly focused on our family. And so inevitably we lose friendships. They fall away because we're not putting the investment into those relationships. And so the friends of our younger years eventually fall away, and we come to a point where we feel like a lone wolf. We're so focused on our family and being providers for our family that we don't have any friends. And so for me, and I believe you have had this experience too, you've had to reach out and cultivate a new group of friends who are people that you want to surround yourself with. And so if I go back about 7 or 8 years, I was at that point where I said, I really need to invest in surrounding myself with some friends who are wise and who are caring and who are unselfish and are the kind of people that I want to emulate. And so I did that. And I'm happy to tell you today that I have an abundance of close friends, many of whom would fit in the category of best friend. They're trustworthy, they're wise, they help hold me accountable. They bring new knowledge and ideas to me that matter. Things we don't talk about politics or Hollywood or sports or anything that's temporary. We talk about stuff that matters. We have deep conversations. When we're connected, it feels like time stops, just like you and I. And I'm so blessed to have those kind of friendships, but I've been very intentional about making sure that when I meet someone that I take the next step and I share something, I get to know them, I ask about them, I share ideas with them, I give them life recommendations, book recommendations, I share new things, new truths that I discover, test with them, ask them to hold me accountable. I ask for help with these people. These are the kind of people that want to help me. I want to help them. And when I need help, I ask them for help, and they love that. It deepens the friendship. And so, that's part of my main approach to life is to pursue wisdom and to keep the company of wise friends. And so the friendships that I have today, we're partners. We're truly committed. We talk about what matters. We are engaged in learning and accountability and growth.
I just love it. I just love it. Every time when I find myself and I feel like here's this person that I can grow old with,
yes,
that's where I find connection. Help me understand, Skip, if you were to show that you care for this person, you really care for this friendship, what are those 3 different ways to express that?
I haven't thought about that before. Let's think through it together. I have a few thoughts. I'm not sure how I would prioritize those, but I'll take a pass at it. Number 1 is to initiate contact. When you're only responding to a friend and they're always the initiator, it seems sort of out of balance or one way. And so make sure that you are periodically or half the time the one who initiates contact. Hey, Gaurav, how are you? I call you, I text you, I email you. I'm initiating contact to check in. What can I help you with? What have you discovered this week? What has the world taught you? How is your family? How can I pray for you? What are you struggling with? Number 1, initiate contact. Number 2, be more concerned about them than you are about yourself. It's not a transactional relationship. It's not about what can I get from this person. It's what can I give to this person?
Yeah.
How can I be a blessing to them? How can I help them with overcome something, get unstuck, develop a new perspective, solve a problem? How can I help them grow as a person? How can we grow together? I think the third part of my answer would be find those areas of common interest where are they in a stage of life where raising teenagers, adolescents is really important. And maybe you've been along that path and you have some stories you can share. Maybe they're really important. Maybe they're really, really wanting to get in shape with their physical health, and you've done some things that have worked, and you can offer some ideas. You can invite them to become a workout partner. Maybe you want to read a book together. The person's interested in developing creativity, and you have some books that you've read that people that are really creative and they know how to stimulate the creative process and develop disciplines that'll help folks be more creative. Hey, Gaurav, let's read this book together. I'll send you a copy. every other week we'll meet and we'll discuss 2 chapters and we'll share what we've learned. How does that sound?
So finding the connection, I mean, reaching out to this person. Second one is looking at how can I add value? Where can I assist you? How can I be of service to you? And the third one, as you mentioned, is doing things together.
Yes.
If
Yes.
I were to pick up the same analogy, if I were to pick up these 3 steps in the organizational context, just curious, Skip, can we genuinely build friendships in the professional circle as well? Because that's a question that I often hear people talking about, that you know what, you only make friends in your school or college. You don't make friends in the professional circle. How far is it true for you?
I think there's no difference at all. I don't see a boundary there. It's the same approach I have at work. If you're not going to become best friends, you're not going to become learning and growth and accountability partners with every coworker. But there are people who you find a common spark, a common interest, people that you connect with, and you want to deepen it. And I see no problem with that at all. I think, in fact, it's what I've done throughout my career. So maybe I've crossed some perceived boundary lines, but I wouldn't do it any differently. Rob, I have one more thing to share with you about friendships, and I think there's a Swedish proverb that my friends and I share, and it's sort of how we approach the relationship. And it goes like this. The Swedish proverb says that a joy shared is twice the joy, and a sorrow shared is half the sorrow. When I can share with you, when I can share with one of my friends something that I'm really is really troublesome and upsetting to me, I can cut the sorrow in half.
Interestingly, when we have this saying in India, I will share that, and it means exactly what you're talking about. कि खुशियां बांटने से बढ़ती हैं और गम बांटने से कम होते हैं. खुशियां is happiness. When you share happiness, it grows. And dukh, which is sorrow, when we share that, they shrink.
Yes.
So it's a universal expression.
Isn't that wonderful?
Isn't this beautiful?
I'm American. It fits how I live and how I approach relationships. It's Swedish in nature. The one I mentioned, India, you have the principle of your own. It must be universal.
It is. And I remember, Skip, last time you spoke about friendship is a universal language.
Yeah.
So irrespective of where you're from, irrespective of the geography that you're from, irrespective of the caste, the creed, the religion you represent, the color of the skin that you represent, there's some basic essence that remains the same. And you spoke about that's a universal language. Tell me more about that.
Well, I'm not well traveled. Haven't been all over the world, but I think we were built for connection. Humans were built for connection. We weren't made to do this life alone. It goes back to ancient civilization that people that left the group, the tribe, they went out, left the village. They put themselves at extreme risk, and many times they didn't come back. But when they stayed together and helped one another, they lived more successfully. They thrived. They hunted better. They ate better. They raised their children better. The list goes on. And so, another principle comes to mind that if we want to go fast, we go alone. But if we want to go far, we travel in a group. And so I think that sums up why friendships are a universal language. And I think, Gaurav, if I'm not mistaken, that is an African proverb, an African principle.
It's a universal principle, I'm sure.
Yes, yes.
Skip, interestingly, you have worked in different companies. You have started your own consulting companies. Today, you work with different people and different organizations. We are talking about friendship. We said that human beings are built for genuine connections. We thrive on genuine connections. We all have this basic need to belong. Just curious, what do you think? What comes in the way of building this genuine connections?
I think it can be a few things. Number one can be fear. Some of us are just have a apprehension about meeting new people or about taking the next step forward with an acquaintance to develop that into a friendship. So I think there can be some fear. I think there can be pride. If I take that first step with you and Gaurav, you and I have met. I want to develop and cultivate a friendship with you. I want to invest in you. I want to truly get to know you, and I want to share our sorrows and our joys. But when I do that the first time, the first effort doesn't get returned to me in full measure. And so my pride says, he's not worth it. I'm not going to get what I deserve from this relationship. And so my pride causes me to pull back, and that relationship never reaches maturity. So I think those are probably the two most common reasons. What do you say? Do you have some observations or ideas about that?
The first one is you said fear. The second one is you said pride. I'm just
Pride.
reflecting in my life, who are those people I stay away from? There are people in my life where at one point in time we were like really good buddies, we were like really good
Yeah.
friends, and now we don't talk to each other.
Yeah. Same with me. I have the same category of friends. Former friends. At one point in time, they were, you were around them a lot of frequency of contact, and you knew everything that was going on in their lives, and maybe you've grown apart.
So what you're talking about, the fear, I will call it insecurity, and the underpinning is ego that comes from a space
Yes.
of insecurity, right? The ego and insecurity, they go hand in hand. This is like where in India we say ahem.
Okay.
We say it may. May is I. When I start to look at myself bigger than anybody else around me, when I start to compare myself with others, where I start to create a wall of separation between me and the other person, that's where I start to diminish who could I potentially be, and thus I kill the friendship.
Right. Absolutely. That's well said. That's so true, and so important for folks to realize. Gaurav, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm thinking back on my past and my relationships. There would have been a time in my life, and this is insecurity. You touched on that, when I just didn't want to be around people who were wiser than me or who were more successful than me. And that's a comparison, isn't it? I don't do that anymore. Or I am intentional and mindful about not comparing myself to other people. And when I strip that away, gosh, there's just a lot more connection and successful friendship and growth and relationship, because I'm not worrying about how do I compare to this person. It's just, how can I love on this person? How can I serve them? How can I help them?
Yeah. Another thing that I'm just reflecting on right now, and we were talking about where you spoke about that you stay with your wife, and I was talking about that we stay in a joint family, where you spoke about that next week you'll be going and meeting your parents after that 2-3 months. And I was talking about
Yes.
that we stay together in one house. My brother, my sister-in-law, their 2 kids, my mom and my dad, we all stay together. Now, interestingly, I'm sure you were not born with that comparison. You were not born with that insecurity. Same is the case with me. I have been a very, very insecure guy. There has always been a very competitive streak within me for as long as I've known myself, and I still suffer from that. I'm sure we are not born into that. We were not born with that. We were born into the context that taught us how to compare ourselves constantly.
Right.
And unless we work on that, we'll not be able to shell out that skin and come
Right.
back to our absolute nature. And what you mentioned is that we are born for connections.
Yes. Yes. We may need to add a psychologist to our next conversation who can help us understand where that originates. But I think you've articulated it very, very well.
And I'm just wondering, if I were to take this connection to the next level, what can we do to revisit ourselves? Because every time when I speak to my father, he does not talk about the accomplishment that he has had in his life. He talks about the relationship that he misses. He talks about his brother and the kind of friendship that he had with his elder brother. He talks about
Yes.
his friends when he was in Pakistan, right? As a young child.
Yeah.
Sometime back, I was sitting with a friend's mother, and she was talking about her friends. So how is it that, deep down, we long for connections? At the end of the journey, we talk about connections, and in between, when we are living in this life, in the rigmarole of this life, we forget all these things. How can we come back home? How can we actually spread this message that friendship is really important? And these are the few steps that could help us to build that connection, to build that bond with these people. What's your take on this?
I think it's about intentionality and focus and discipline. Really, let's say that someone's living the way you described. They're not focusing on what's important. They're not focusing on their purpose. They're not focusing on the relationships that matter. And they're blessed to have that realization. Someone lifts the curtain up and they say, "Oh, I don't like how I'm living. I don't like this at all. I'm focused on the wrong people and the wrong things." You know what, Gaurav? Tomorrow is a new chance to do something different. Maybe you want to make big, sweeping wholesale change in your life, and you want to do a reset and come up with a whole new strategy. Or maybe you want to try one new thing beginning tomorrow for a week, and build upon that as a first layer foundation of success, and then add on to that and add on to that. But it's up to us. We have the power. We have if we listen, if we stop and listen, and we look inside ourselves, we have the knowledge, the wisdom, we have the power. And so it really just involves having the courage to do tomorrow differently than we did today.
I love it when you said that intentionality, focus, and discipline. For me, that's going to be the three letters that I'm going to take away: intentionality, IFNT.
Yeah.
For as long as
Yes.
I'm willing to put my intentions that, hey, these are the people that I would like to further strengthen my bond with. And I'm going to continuously focus on making sure that I reach out to them, as you mentioned, offer, how can I be of service to you? How can I assist you to fulfill your dreams? And the third one is making sure we can do things together. And then I require rigorous discipline in my life.
Right. Right. And discipline, as you know, I'm telling you what you already know, but discipline often has a negative connotation that it involves punishment or pain and suffering. But really, discipline in this sense of living a better life and being mindful and being focused on our intentions is just about forming healthy, repeatable habits that
So true.
we practice frequently, we welcome them, and we see that they're for our good.
Thank you, Skip. Skip, a couple of questions. One is, with all the experiences that you've been able to gather for yourself, the connection that you've been able to build for yourself, all the conversation that you've had with so many brilliant minds on earth, what do you know for sure with 100% certainty and surety?
I know that we live in a way to pursue wisdom. That's what I know to be true. I live my life to pursue wisdom and to surround myself with wise people. That's my main. The name of my podcast is The Main Thing. That's my main thing right now. It may change in the future, but that's what I'm all about, is pursuing wisdom, truth, and surrounding myself with people that are wise. And I think, Gaurav, someone that's listening right now, what's the difference? You guys are just splitting hairs. This is such a thin margin of difference in minutia. Really, it's not. So let's contrast knowledge and wisdom. Could we do that for a minute? Could we spend a minute
yes.
on that?
Would love to.
Yeah. So knowledge to me includes facts, theories, information, stories. We read a lot of books. We get a lot of knowledge, right? We talked about that earlier. Wisdom, in contrast, is which information, out of all that former category, which of those things are important right now? What's relevant? What's most important? Which of those principles, which of those books that I've read, from those, what chunk of knowledge do I need to apply right now? When to apply it? We've all faced situations where there are conflicting truths. Which is more true and which is more relevant right now? That's wisdom. It's time tested. It's been experimented with. We've had personal triumphs and failures that have proven it to us. That's wisdom. And that's what I'm all about, is acquiring wisdom. We can walk along life's path mindlessly and bump and make our own mistakes and fall down and get hurt, or we can surround ourselves with people that have already walked the path, and we can listen and learn from them how to do it the easier way. And that's wisdom. And that's wisdom.
Absolutely, yes. And I love it when you were creating a distinction between knowledge and wisdom, and as you mentioned, pursuing wisdom and truth.
Yes.
Because knowledge is outside in.
Right.
But wisdom is what I make out of that. What's happening to me inside right now?
Inside out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Write that down, please. Write that down, please. Can we can put your name under it, but that is fabulous. Knowledge is outside in. Wisdom is from the inside out.
Yeah. And also, since we are talking about separation, we are talking about bond, we are talking about connection, we are talking about, finding your purpose. And thus, it takes so much of time to come back home and look at what's my purpose. There are books written on purpose. There are books written on truth and wisdom, but my truth will always remain different from your truth. And I think once we start to come back home, we realize that there's only one truth, right? That's what is written in different scriptures, where they talk about oneness, they talk about the concept of non-duality.
Right.
So here's the last question, Skip, for you. Skip, if you were to give a piece of advice to your own 20-year-old self, what would you offer?
I would tell my 20-year-old self to balance hard work on this side of the scale with rest and forgiveness of self on this side of scales. Pushing and striving and hard work over here, rest and recovery and self-forgiveness, to balance those two things. That 20-year-old Skip was all about striving and working and comparing myself to others and doing more. I did not value or appreciate rest, forgiving myself, and taking care of myself.
Thank you for sharing that, because the other day I was talking to somebody that we can have all the goals, but if the container of the purpose that we are holding all our goals into, it's not stable enough, we might not be able to take care of those goals. And a goal which is not grounded into values and purpose will only feed into our ego.
That's so true. Oh, I love that. That is, wow. Wow. That is fabulous. Brilliant.
Thank you so much, Skip. What a pleasure speaking to you. What a great conversation.
Has it been 1 minute? 5 minutes?
Yes.
30? I don't know. Because it feels like time stopped. Just like you said, Gaurav, that you are a special person, and I enjoy every time that we're together. And it's been a blessing. Thank you for asking fabulous questions, causing me to look within and challenging what I think, and deepening and sharpening my wisdom truth. Thank you for that. You really bring that out.
Thank you so much. May you continue to pursue your wisdom and your truth, and may you always continue to shine and spread the message of what it means to live a life from a space of hope. Thank you so much, Skip.
So long for now.